Hi students, welcome back. Coming to the next topic, that is system programs. In the last video we saw the types of system calls and what are the system calls, how they works, and in this lecture we will be seeing what are system programs and what are they used for. So, let us see. So, an important aspects of a modern system is the collection of system programs. So, in order to understand what are system programs and in order to understand where the system programs resides in our computer system hierarchy, let us look at the diagram of our computer system hierarchy. So, you can see the diagram. So, if you see the diagram, this is the diagram of our computer system hierarchy, and you can see in the lowest level we have our computer hardware which is comprises of resources like CPU, memory and IO devices and so on. Just on the top of that we have our operating system, and on the operating system we have our system programs, and on the top of our system programs we have our application programs like word processor, spreadsheets, compiler, text editor, web browser and so on. And here we have our users who interacts the entire system. So, today what I am going to discuss about is system programs. So, in this lecture we will be seeing what are system programs and what are the types of system programs and what are they used for, and we also categorized our system program into various categories in the basis of the task they do in the operating system and as for their perform. Okay, let us start. So, system programs provide a convenient environment for program development and execution. This will be understood in very details when I will be giving you an example. Some of them are simply user interfaces to system calls, others are considerably more complex. So, we are going to categorize the system calls in various categories as per their work, as per their perform in our operating system. So, there are various types of system programs in our computer system, in our operating system, executing in our OS. So, what are the various categories of system programs? Have a look. So, system programs can be divided into the following categories. These are, first one is file management, next is status information, next is file modification, programming language support, program loading and execution, and last one is communication. So, have a look on file management. What is file management and how a file management works in order to system programs, how we categorized a system program in the form of file management. So, first one being file management. So, the system programs that helps in managing your files, they fall under the category of file management programs. For example, they helps creating files, they helps for deleting files, they helps of copying files, they help to rename, print, dump files, and they can be help for listing files or generally manipulate files and directories, or generally you can say that they help in manipulating files and directories. So, the system programs that help in manipulating files and directories, they fall under the categories of file management system programs. Alright. Now, let us see what is the next one. So, the system programs that fall under this category are those system programs that asked the system for its status information. Like for example, it can ask the system for the system date time, it can ask for the amount of available memory or disk space, or it can also ask for the number of users, and also it can for the other detailed performance and also other complex information like logging and debugging information, etc. So, all the information programs that are dealing with the status information of your system, they fall under this category of status information programs. Then the next one is what? Next one is file modification. What is file modification? So, these are the system programs that helps in modify your file. Fine. So, you may be thinking what is the difference between file management and file modification, right? Because we have just discussed the file management in the first point, right? Now, file management that deal with the outer layer of your file. That means like creating your files, deleting your files, renaming, copying, moving and so on. As the definition you can see, the file modifications, it deals with modifying the inner content of your file. Okay? Alright. If you want to modify the inner content of your file, for that purpose you use the system programs which fall under the categories of the file modification. So, we have several text editors may be available to create and modify the content of files stored on disk or other storage devices. Okay. And there may also be special commands to search contents of files or perform transformations of the text. Okay. So, we see that if you want to modify the contents of your files like modifying or transforming the text or anything like that, for that we have the system program which falls under this category of file modification, which helps us to accomplish this task. Fine. So, now coming to the next one. Next one is programming language support. So, this is very important in order to system programs. So, these are the system programs that provide you with programming language support. Okay. So, there are different programming languages like C, C++, Java, Visual Basic and so on. Now, your system may have to compile and run programs that are written in this type of program, this kind of different languages like your C, C++, Java, Visual Basic and so on. Fine. So, your system must have support for these programming languages, otherwise it will be able to compile or run this kind of programs. So, for that system programs is used, that is used to support for these programming languages, otherwise it will be able to compile or run this kind of programs. So, in order to give you support for this programming languages, there are system programs that helps in providing you with this programming language support. Okay. So, there are things like our compilers, assemblers, debuggers and interpreters, and for common programming languages such as C, C++, Java, Visual Basic and so on are often provided to the user with the operating system. So, these things are provided usually with the operating system, so that your system will be able to compile the codes that are written in these languages. Fine. So, that your system works flawlessly. Okay. Even it's compiled some source code related to some programming languages. So, the programs which gives you the support for the programming languages, they fall under this category of programming language support. Okay. Now, the next one is program loading and execution. So, in the previous point we saw that our programs were compiled and assembled using those system programs which fall under the category of programming language support category. Okay, now after your programs is compiled, once your programming language is compiled, So, it has to be loaded and executed, you know that. So, in order to do that, there are some system programs that allows you and helps you to do that. Okay. So, those are the system programs are fall under this category of programs, loading and execution. It says that once your compilation and assembly complete, you need to load that program to the memory. So, once a program is assembled and compiled, it must be loaded into memory to be executed. The system may be provide what type of system programs? The system programs include in program loading and execution that falls under absolute loaders, relocatable loaders, linkage editors and overlay loaders. So, debugging systems for either higher level languages or machine languages are needed as well. Okay. So, that it can be what executed. So, the system may provide some different kind of loaders in order to accomplish this task, this type of loaders, fine. So, now another point is debugging. Okay. What is the meaning of debugging? Debugging the systems. So, debugging means whenever there is a problem in your code, suppose you write a code in a text editor, you write a programming language in a text editor, and whenever there is a problem in your code or in anything, you need to find out what is the problem and you need to solve that problem. Okay. So, that is what we mean by debugging, and the programs responsible for this task is known as debuggers. So, all these programs that helps in loading programs and executing the programs. So, these are the system programs, that is absolute loaders, relocatable loaders, linkage editors and overlay loaders. These all fall under this category of program loading and execution system programs. Okay. Now, coming to the last one, we have communication. This is very most important things. We also discussed it in our previous lecture in order to system calls. We also know that what are the communications in system calls, how communications handled in system calls, how system calls handled a communication. Now, so these are the system programs, the communications, there are some system programs that helps in communications. Okay. So, even when we discuss about the system calls, we have the system calls that helped in communications, right. So, in the same way, the system program that help in communication between processes or users or allows users to surf the web and so on. This system programs, they fall under the category of communications. These programs provide the mechanism for creating virtual connections among processes, users and computer systems. Second is allowing users to send messages to one another's screens, to browse web page, okay, to send electronic mails message, to log in remotely or to transfer files from one machine to another. So, we see that all the tasks that related to communications, that are things that we have talked about here. Okay. So, the system programs that help you in the communication processes, they are the ones that fall under this category of communication system programs. So, these are the main category on which you can divide your system programs based on the kind of task you perform, fine. So, this is the main categories of system program we can categorize. Okay. Now, apart from this system programs, there are also other programs that are provided by the operating system in order to perform some certain task. So, as I told you, In addition to system programs, most operating systems are supplied with programs that are useful in solving common problems or performing common operations. So, examples of those type of system programs are like your web browser, word processors, spreadsheets, database system, games, etc. So, first is your web browser. So, you have web browsers like Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome and all, which helps you to what? Browse the web. So, these web browsers may be provided with your operating system. See, I am not saying that specially Mozilla Firefox or Google Chrome will be provided by your operating system, but based on the operating system that you are using one or more of the web browsers may be provided along with it. Like for example, in your Windows, let us say you are using Windows operating system, okay. Like for example, in your Windows operating system, you have your Internet Explorer that is provided with your Windows operating system. So, that you can browse your web using that browser. So, in the same way, there are word processor. This is one type of system programs. So, depending on the kind of operating system that you use and kind of the office tool that is installed in your system, so you may have the word processor installed in your system, which is used for processing your Word documents. Like for example, in Windows you have your Microsoft Word, and if you are using Linux you have your LibreOffice Writer, which is the word processing software. Next is spreadsheets programs like your Microsoft Excel in your Windows and LibreOffice in Linux. You may have the LibreOffice Calc. So, those are spreadsheet programs, and then you may have the database systems. So, what are they used for database system? Database system that helps in managing your database. So, they can also be of different types, like you have Oracle database, MySQL database and so on. Then you may have games. Games for your entertainment purposes, etc. So, these are some other programs that are provided along with your operating system. So, these are some other type of programs that is provided by the operating system for the users to perform certain tasks. So, keep in mind that these are not system programs, but they are application programs. So, once again I repeat this, these are not system programs, but these are application programs which are provided along with the operating system for the users to perform certain tasks. So, there may be a possible question may be arised in operating system, that is, what is the main difference among application programs, system programs and system calls. So, what is the application programs? So, application programs which a user can interact directly. So, application programs, that is a program used to interpret by the end of the user of the operating system. So, what is the system programs? A system programs that provides a system services to the application programs. It is a program that provides a system services to the application programs. So, system services, what does it mean here? It means that the services from the system, the end of the system, like your hardware, software, so on. Okay. Next is system call. What is system calls? It provides the interface to the various services provided made available by the operating system. Application program, a program used to interpret the semantic content of messages entered by the end user of the system. Okay. So, what is system program? So, a program that provides system services to application programs and also controls some aspects of the operation of a computer is termed as the system programs. So, system services, as I said, as I told you, here means the services from the system components like your hardware or software, right. System calls provide an interface to the operating system services using system calls. So, system services can be invoked. Okay. So, the important aspect is that direct access to the system calls is generally disabled due to security issues, fine, but can access them through an application programming interface API. The functions that are included in the API invoke the actual system calls. So, some of the benefits of using API to system calls can be to gain portability and ease of use. So, portability as in if system supports an API, any program using that API can compile and run on that. So, ease of use, how it can possible, use of the API is significantly easier than use of the actual system call. So, system calls provide an interface between the process and the operating system. So, let us just have a quick recap of our system programs, which is the main focus in this lecture. So, the system program, we categorize the system programs into various categories as per their perform. So, what are those? System programs can be divided into this following categories. So, what we have studied? So, we have studied file management system programs, status information, file modification, programming language support, program loading and execution, and finally communications. So, in the next video we will be seeing the design and implementation of operating system. See you in the next one. Thank you.